GM folks, welcome to the first episode of Good Morning Web3. I'm here with Zac, who is the artist behind Polygons, a very cool collection of customizable NFTs that have some DeFi applications too. Hey Zac, how are you doing?
I'm doing great, Nuno. Thanks for having me. How are
First of
you?
all, yeah, I'm doing great as well. First of all, thank you for coming. Let's start by introducing yourself. Where do you come from? How have you started on Web3 and crypto in general? All that kind of stuff.
Yeah, for sure. So, thanks for having me. It's great to meet you through the Polygon advocates and everything. I about a year in the NFT space. I got involved through a couple of friends of mine who I just saw posting stuff, and they were 3D artists, as most people were a year or so ago. So I sort of got curious about it because to me it just seemed like it actually just made a lot of sense. As a video gamer and somebody who just is into collecting and into virtual assets and all that kind of stuff. So I was super interested in it. And so I got in and started making some connections, started building some relationships and networks in the space. And I started working with Bruce the Goose, who is the founder of NFT Hub and Nifty Pride. We started working on some different projects. I worked with him on Nifty Pride last year, so 2021, and that was sort of like my first kind of proof of concept or like proof of viability for the NFT space, because I had done fundraisers and stuff before with my art on Instagram, and raised couple hundred bucks, and we did an NFT auction and raised 15 grand for the transgender emergency fund. And so that was sort of like one of my first experiences in the space was that organizing that and putting that on and being able to raise that money for such a great cause. So that was pretty epic. And then from there, I was minting my own NFTs. So I'm an abstract painter. You can see one of my pieces back here. So I was doing like these abstract NFTs. But I did really want to create like a project. And so started talking with Bruce the Goose about, what that could look like. He, at the time, was one of the very first Polygon advocates, and I think was a consultant for Polygon as well. So he wanted to do a project on Polygon. And had some ideas about that. So we just started working on it. We just started drawing and coming up with ideas for it. And it's evolved like quite a lot from that point. But that's sort of how I got started and where I'm at in the space.
Was a Polygon advocate as well. Was that what motivated you to try and join this really cool community?
No, I don't think so. I think, having a project on Polygon and just sort of becoming more of a member of that community was really what prompted that. So, I've been able to make some connections and partnerships with a number of different projects on Polygon, and a few of which who were Polygon advocates. So for me, it just I'm sort of really interested in the community building, onboarding kind of side of things. So for me, that was like, I want to be able to connect with people. I want to be able to, tell them about NFTs, tell them about the opportunities that are here, and then, be able to kind of drive them towards Polygon and other opportunities that I think are just really valuable. So yeah, for me it was kind of like that, more of that kind of a reason, wanting to be able to just be an advocate in that sense, in terms of building the community and supporting the community and bringing more people into the space.
Yeah, makes sense. Let's talk about polygons, and then we'll talk about why you chose Polygon. Most of us will already know the answer, but yeah, let's talk a little bit about that. So, when did you start polygons? How did it came along? Was how was all the process?
Yeah, for sure. So we started working on it, Bruce and I, back in the summer of 2021. So basically, right after we sort of finished with the Nifty Pride project the last year, we just got to work talking about what we could do, collection or project we could work on, and so that's when we sort of started. And what's kind of interesting there is like, we used to joke, we'd hang out in Discord voice chat like until 2 a.m. every night and talk about our NFT ideas. And, we'd come up with these wacky ideas like, oh, let's make an NFT restaurant. And we'd joke about these ideas being like really interesting, cool ideas, but that everything moves so fast that if you want to do something in the space, if you have an idea, you have to do it. You have to move on it.
Yeah.
And sure enough, it was like 2 weeks later, and I sent him a link to this NFT restaurant in New York.
So an NFT restaurant, it actually exists. It's not no
Yeah,
concept.
like the all the menu items are NFTs, and you like buy the
Oh my
you like
god.
you order your meal through an NFT, and then you like burn the NFT to actually get your I don't I don't know, but just like this wacky idea. So at the time, he was talking about like NFT staking, and 6 months ago, or however long it was now, a while ago now, that was actually a pretty cool new idea. And so we're like, oh yeah, like this is cool. Like everybody knows about DeFi staking, liquidity pools, that kind of stuff, but not a lot of people were doing like pure NFT staking, where you purchase the NFT and then you stake that and you earn a token of the NFT, or another token of that kind. So at the time, we're like, oh yeah, this is going to be really cool. That was really exciting to feel like we were on that cutting edge. But the project took a long time to develop. And by the time we were actually getting close to, being able to consider launching, it wasn't a new concept anymore, like
Yeah, that's what
like
happens
100
in that
other
space.
projects were doing that thing. So we sort of had to pivot a little bit, because we did want to bring something new to the space, and then so that's where our dev Chillyo comes in, and I did see that he joined the call, so maybe he wants to pop on and join us. But so like he came in, into the space and into the project, and had a lot of really cool ideas, and that actually really helped shape the some of the core concepts of the project as it is now.
Oh, great. So let's just check if he's here. Chilio, are you here?
I am. Hello.
Hi, how are you doing? I
Good.
was
How are you?
I'm doing awesome. I was just talking about Zach. We were talking about the uh, how you guys started polygons, and he actually just introduced you. So perhaps you could uh, talk a little bit about how what did you bring into this project? What were these great ideas that Zach was talking about? What was your role in polygons in general?
So yeah, I was I created all of the contracts, and like Zach said, I did a lot of the brainstorming for what what kind of shaping what the project would look like. And yeah, I mean, Zac and I, we basically bounced back and forth off each other for quite a while, and we finally got to a point where we felt good about what we wanted to do. And yeah, so I've been in the space for, I've been in the crypto space for about 5 years now.
Oh,
I've been
that's
developing for
that's a long
a little
time.
more than a year. Yeah. I started off just doing like swing trading, and I did pretty well. But when the bear market kicked in, I switched over to developing, and yeah, so that's what I'm doing now.
Yeah. So, what's your background? Were you a developer before? Were you interested in just blockchain development and decided to learn about it? How did it all work?
I I have a very diverse background, I guess you could say. I have worked a bit in like cybersecurity and like information security. So I guess I do kind of have a background in it, but when it comes to like traditional programming, like I'm not classically trained in any language, or I didn't go like my master's degree is in like political science. So I'm not like a classically trained developer, but I just spent endless hours reading documentation and practicing and talking to other devs and just, doing everything I could. And, it took about, I'd say honestly, it took about a year before I even felt comfortable to even like deploy live projects. And then, yeah. And now I'm doing basically the full stack. I'm doing the UI front end development. I'm doing the back end servers, the Solidity contracts, you name it.
Yeah. So you're a full stack developer, self-taught. You had a background in tech, but you learned it all by yourself, which is pretty cool. So yeah, awesome. Why don't
He's
you?
and he's not giving himself quite enough credit there, actually, because the whole like our main kind of like distinct feature, the unique feature of the Polygoons project right now is the fact that they're customizable. So you have your Polygoons base NFTs, and then all the accessories, which usually in an NFT project are just the traits, like the shirt and hair and whatever. Those are all accessory NFTs, so actually separate NFTs, and you can customize them. You can stake them to your Polygoons to sort of like dress them up. But if you have more than one Polygoons NFT, you can switch them back and forth and customize them. And that was pretty much all like Chillyo's idea to do that. And then, of course, work the magic behind the code to make that happen.
So
yeah, that was actually pretty complicated. There's not any other project that's doing it. I did take some inspiration from like Axie and some of the new metaverse contracts. I actually like went through a bunch of different projects. They're like repos on GitHub, and I just took bits and pieces and spun up a new concept, basically a new contract style that allowed allowed the different layers to be staked and unstaked, and then return those values in a way that the front end or any like any platform could read what values are there and then render the data appropriately.
Yeah. So as a developer, how do you go about brainstorming? There are some some of us are just good at having ideas, but as a developer, it's not only good enough to have the ideas, you have to actually know and be creative on how to implement that. How do you go about that? How do you go about
Well,
developing new
most of it
concepts?
starts with drinking about 5 or 6 energy drinks. And then I go into like a sort of trance, I guess you could say, where I start with like basic code, and then I just add layers, and then I just basically just keep going until it works. I just like I've written contracts and then gone back a week later and looked at them and been like, what was I doing? Like how did this happen? So to answer your question, it's kind of like a live process for me where I just kind of get in the zone, and I start writing code, and then eventually the code comes together one way or another.
Yeah. Do you ever say, well, the job's done, or is it constantly evolving? Is that always something else to do? How do you see it?
The job is never done. You can ask Zac. I'm constantly doing bug fixes and improvements. Today, I completely rewrote the entire front end to switch from Web3 JS to Ethers JS, so I could implement like Wallet Connect and um, some other features. So I mean, the job is never done. Like you have small windows where you can kind of relax. Like after we minted, there was like maybe a little bit of time where I was, a little bit relaxed, and then, the next thing started, and we have so much on our roadmap that, we're not going to be quote unquote finished, and, for the foreseeable future.
Yeah, let's talk a little bit about the roadmap. So, what are you guys' ambitions? What do you plan on doing with the project?
Yeah, so a lot of the things that I really love about the project and about, like, just keeping on working on it, it takes inspiration from, like 90s video games. Like one of my favorite games is Earthbound, but like Legend of Zelda, that kind of stuff, right? Where you're going on these epic quests, and there's a couple sides to this. On the one side, since starting in the NFT space, have zero time for games, right? Like, I think that's, whenever I say that to somebody, they're always like, oh my gosh, yeah, I haven't played a video game in months or years, right? And so there's an aspect to that where it's just like, yeah, like I want to do something in the space that actually, realizes that. So not requiring people to, grind into a game. There are, AAA titles for that kind of stuff. Everybody's into the Elden Sword game right now, right? That's just like, we're not going to compete with that. But what I do see us having is just really interesting. It's sort of like more passive participation with gamification of the project. So one thing that we're developing right now is what we're calling a territory control game. So the polygons all have different factions, and what we want to have is in this game, kind of like a top-down, like JRPG style game, where your polygons will move around and walk around, have these different zones or territories. And you can move your characters into a territory, and then their power is kind of applied to that territory for your faction. So then it's kind of like a passive thing as well, right? Like you could just go on, you can just sort of put your polygons into an area, and it was actually inspired by the idea of staking NFTs. So initially we were thinking, okay, we're going to stake the NFTs to these different territories. but it would be more fun if you could actually like move them around and walk them around. So that's where we're sort of going next with that. But moving these characters into a game gives us a lot of flexibility in terms of sort of enriching the lore and building on, building on the different kind of abilities that all of the different items and traits might have. So we have like all kinds of ideas about like, if you have a magic axe or a chicken, you'll be able to do certain things in the game that other players won't. One of the things, and this is a bit of alpha here, that we're going to be releasing in the next couple of weeks is we're actually going to be releasing the ability for community members to create their own accessories in the Polygoons ecosystem. And the way that's going to work is through the anvil trait. So if you have the anvil item, either staked to your Polygoons or it's just in your wallet, then you'll be one of the first people that is able to create your own Polygoons accessory NFT. Then that will go into the collection, right? And then as people are minting, they'll be able to randomly receive that item. And so all of these different items that we have all have these ideas, which will gradually over time, be released into the ecosystem.
Yeah. So if I have minted a Polygon with an anvil, I will be able to create my own customizable items.
That's right. Yeah. Yeah.
And I can define the traits of those items.
Yeah, totally. Like one of the things that I really want to have happen, I really hope that happens with the project, is that people, start to sort of take ownership of the narrative of the characters, right? Like you own the NFT, but you also own the IP, right? And that's one of our features that is posted on our website. Like, you collect a Polygoons NFT, you own the IP. It's a common thing in the NFT space, but not a lot of people really grasp it, right? Sure, you can, make a t-shirt with your NFT on it. But what it also means is you can, you have the ownership, you can have that, you bring your own creativity to that NFT, right? So you can tell its story, and you can, work with other people in the community to build stories together. And so that's what I'm really excited about seeing develop.
So it's very much different from other projects. The creator of the item is not only the artist behind the NFTs, but the person itself. The person created the character and has the creative rights and ownership of that NFT. Is that right?
Yeah, totally. And it's also sort of, up to you, right? So like if, and this is coming back to, my understanding that not everybody has time to do these things, right? So you might own an anvil, and you think, oh, that's cool. Like I can create my own trait, but, weeks pass and you still haven't opened Photoshop to actually do anything. That's totally fine as well, right? Like there's the option to engage as much as you want, but still have the value of those different aspects present, right? So even if if you're not going to have time to create a trait, maybe you just sell the anvil. And all of the accessory NFTs are their own separate NFTs. So you can, list and buy them individually on OpenSea, eventually through our platform as well. But like, so you could sell it, or you could just hold on to it, or you could, maybe even you loan it out, right? You send it to somebody who can use it. And then they send it back to you or something like that. Right. So there's, Yes.
With smart contracts. I don't want to say everything, but there's a lot of cool stuff you can do if you can get your hands dirty with some code. Yeah, being able to loan an item would be pretty cool. Yeah, awesome. How does the item creation work? Is that very user friendly? Do you have to?
No. I mean, right now it's I have the source files as a what is it, a PS, I forget what it is, the open source version of PSD. So like, if I would be actually just providing those base files, like a sort of a template and some guidelines to people who are wanting to create them. They wouldn't have the ability to mint them directly. Like they would basically submit them back to us. And then if we had, suggestions or issues with anything, then it would be a bit of a back and forth. So, I mean, it's not like a super smooth process yet.
It's not,
but we're still small, right? We're still able to handle those these kinds of one-on-one experiences.
Yeah, and that also increases the engagement with the community. You're not just a project that created items, and then it's up to the buyer to do whatever they want, but it's not like they're forgotten. You guys are always available to be in contact. If they want to develop a new item, you guys keep talking and make sure that happens. That's pretty cool. Very different from what we are seeing in this space. That's, in my opinion, and I'm going to get your vision on that soon, it's getting a little bit overcrowded with a lot of, I would call, noise, a lot of projects that are not so relevant. And yeah, it's cool to see someone doing actually different and making sure it's not just a collection. You buy a quote-unquote JPEG, which is definitely not what polygons are, and then you have an NFT. No, it's definitely nothing like that. And yeah, it's very cool to see you guys making that happen.
Yeah, thanks a lot, for sure.
So let's talk a little bit about timeframes. Where do you guys see yourself in 6 months, 1 year, and 2 years' time?
Yeah, it's interesting. It's kind of hard to say. We opened our public mint. What was it? February 22nd. So we're coming up on 2 months, and it's been a pretty slow start for us, actually. And I think a lot of that is like we do have other team members, but Chillyo and I are the core team. And between the two of us, the amount of time that we, are able to completely dedicate to the project is certainly limited. As a lot of us who are in the space, we're working other jobs or we're working on other projects as well. Chillyo is developing an entire NFT marketplace simultaneously. So it has been a bit of a slow start. So, I mean, if you were to ask me that before minting, I would have said, in 2 months, we hope to be, 50% sold or something like that. We're far from that now. But so it's kind of difficult to say where we'll be. But the other thing too is that I think that once we start sort of showing the capability and the interactivity of all of these features, people are going to start sort of picking up on what we're doing. And the people who are already in the project now kind of see the uniqueness that we have going. So really, it's just all about keeping that going and keep developing and pushing ourselves creatively. I think that in the next maybe 2 months or so, we'll have like a playable version of the territory control game that I was talking about, and that will give people a real way to use their polygons. And I think that's going to be a big sort of boost for our project, because that gives us something. The customization is super unique, and that's awesome. But that's sort of where it ends right now, right? They can dress them up and then they can take a screenshot. We're trying to provide some other interactivity, just even through our community and through our Discord and that kind of stuff. But having, something that people can actually interact with and be rewarded for through that, right? That whole GameFi aspect. So, I want to be super optimistic and say that in 6 months, that's when we'll sell out. We'll start ramping that up in the next couple of months. 6 months we'll have sold out. And then, where we go from there is really just about building and adding to the experience of the polygons, right? Like we want people, we don't really want people to sell them, right? We want people to have fun with them and want to keep them and want to buy more things and more items and this kind of stuff and just participate in the ecosystem. So there's some other kind of crazy and wacky ideas in the pipeline that that haven't seen the light of day yet. But yeah. And we're also super open to like the community ideas as well. So we have a weekly community call in our Discord, and people show up and just I sometimes I give some prompts about things that we're thinking about or things that we would like some feedback on, and it's been really awesome. We've had really great reception there from our small community, but people who see what we're doing and believe in what we're doing and are there to help us out as much as they can.
Yeah, that's awesome. How have you guys been able to raise awareness for the project? How did you guys advertise it? How's the community aspect going? That kind of stuff.
Yeah, that's the biggest challenge we have right now is just visibility and, getting the right eyes on it, getting people to realize what we're doing. For sure, that's a big challenge. And if you talk to any NFT project these days, they'll all basically say the same thing. It's like, well, how do we market? What do we do? So, I think, this whole process, we've been really focused on just organic growth. We just want people to come in who have a genuine interest in what we're doing. We've kind of avoided the whole like FOMO aspect of it, which maybe is the wrong decision. Maybe that's why we're not selling out as quickly. But again, like I want people to come in who want to have polygons and not people who want to come in because they think they can flip a polygons. And that is a bit of a different approach, I think. It's showing up to, Twitter Spaces, it's showing up to, our partners' spaces and that kind of thing. And kind of just explaining really what we're doing and why what we're doing is unique and special and all that kind of stuff, instead of the value proposition of like, oh, the polygons are going to moon or whatever.
Yeah.
So it's tricky for sure. The other one thing that we've been doing that is also unique, I think, is we've implemented some pretty cool utility through our partners. So we've got, I think we're coming up on 30 partner projects. And about half of those partner projects, we've created exclusive NFTs for their project for them to hand out to their community. And we call those the Pals of the Polygons Power Boost cards. And what they are, they're NFTs, but they're like little trading cards. And maybe you can put an image up here. I'll send you one.
Yeah.
But what they do is when you're in the game, when you're in the ecosystem, these these trading cards actually provide extra power to your polygoons that you are using and playing with. So it's a really cool utility for our partners. They get an NFT that they can freely distribute to their holders or collectors or whatever. And then those people, learn about our project through that as well. And then we also get to sort of highlight these other projects. And we've actually seen, like, what's kind of crazy is, like, because we don't have the game available yet, there's no actual utility for the power. So the rarity of the traits and everything is just rarity. There's no utility for the rarity. But when we have the game, then the rarity, the rarer your items and traits that you have for your character, the more power they have, and then the more sort of influence and control they have in the different territories and that kind of thing. And so right now, the power doesn't have that utility, but people are still collecting the power boost cards because they know that it will eventually have that ability, and they're also just cool looking, and it's kind of fun to like try and collect more of them. So we have people in our space, in our community, that are actually just going to these partner projects and buying their NFTs so that they can collect the power boost cards.
That's really cool to see. Absolutely. So a major part of Polygons, it's definitely that it's built on Polygon. So why Polygon?
Yeah, so you hinted at this earlier, that anybody who's in the space knows the answer to this question, and the basic answer is just that the gas is so low, right? The transactions are so low, but there's more to it for us than that, right? For any project, that's appealing. To avoid that Ethereum gas prices, where you're paying $50, $100 to mint or to transfer or to list for sale your NFTs. For us, because the polygons are customizable, every time you're staking an accessory to your polygons, that's a transaction. And so if you're minting your polygons, and then you're claiming your NFTs, your accessories, and then you're staking all of those accessory NFTs to your polygons. Maybe you decide to mint a second one, and then you want to mix and match your accessories. Now you're unstaking, another transaction, and then restaking to your new one, so another transaction. And so, like, on a network with gas fees, it would just, like, nobody would do it, right? All the polygons would be nude. Nobody would claim their items. But what we're seeing now is, like, the number of items that are unstaked to polygons is actually really low. Everybody's just dressing their polygons up with all of the items that they can, because it's super fun. And that's totally a big part of it. And the other side is, I think maybe Chillyo, you can speak to this as well, is like the sort of the technical infrastructure as well, and the various APIs and that kind of stuff that are available.
So Zac kind of touched on it a little bit with the gas prices, but I mean, beyond that, the chain is, I mean, it's one of the more established chains, and it's fast. I mean, it's just fast. Every block is about every 2 seconds or so, 2 to 3 seconds. And with our contracts, I was able to get the price for minting and staking down to around like 0.003 Matic. So, I mean, you're spending fractions of pennies to do just about anything in our platform. So, I mean, I think that's probably the biggest draw, is that to do one of these operations on Ethereum mainnet would cost probably like $15 or more. And it would probably take a few minutes, where now we're, it's taking a couple seconds, and it's costing like less than a tenth of a penny or something.
Yeah, and it's not only about when the project is actually deployed. You guys need to test on the mainnet too, right?
Yeah, so what I've noticed is that things that work on the testnet, so things that work on like Ganache and Hardhat don't always work on testnet, and things that work on testnet don't always work on mainnet. So there's definitely like, you definitely need to go through the paces, like through the different stages, and make sure everything's working. So Zac and I, we were kind of in a rush, to be honest, on this deployment, but we did manage to get in. We tested every process that was going to go live before we put it live. So for me, I like to do a bit more testing than we did, to be honest. Luckily, everything has worked out great. We haven't had a single contract error of any kind, whether it be minting or staking or unstaking or approving, or, I mean, everything has gone, as intended. So, but yeah, like Mumbai testnet it's all right. Like, I wouldn't say it's as good as like, maybe Avalanche. They're like Fuji, but I mean, it's pretty decent. And, I like it better than Rinkeby or something like that. So yeah.
Let's talk just a little bit about the NFT space. So what is going on now that excites you guys? Beside Polygons, we know that's our favorite project, of course. But yeah, what is going on this space? What do you see that could happen to NFTs? Any use case that's not happening right now that could happen in the future?
Yeah, so I mean, and I know Chillyo's got some projects that he's working on as well that are super exciting. What I'm seeing a lot of now is just really interesting and creative partnerships, and I think that that's really where a lot of projects are getting an edge. The Polygons just joined this awesome, super fun project called Crypto Mibs, and they're like an NFT marble game. And they actually let you mint a marble using the NFTs from the partner collections. And then you can play with the marble, like of the NFT that you own, like the specific NFT. And like, that's just, it's a very cool, just way of, giving your community. So if you own a project, you can give your community a gamification version, a gamification option for the NFTs that they own of yours, just through that partnership, right? There's nothing else that that those partners need to do. So that's what we're our thinking behind our Power Boost cards as well. Like, there's nothing else that our partners need to do except hand out the cards, but all of that kind of interesting utility, we're taking that ownership of and making that value. So that's really exciting. I think just seeing how people are working through those different things. There's Beyond Earth Online also is integrating partner NFTs into their game. And so the partner NFTs are actually the different races in the game. So yeah, I think that's, for me, like seeing all of that kind of stuff is super interesting. I know Chillyo, you're working on a very exciting project as well.
So just touch on it quickly. I'm, like Zac mentioned it earlier, I'm building the artsy NFT marketplace. I've sent out some demos to Morales and some other like Matic News and some other places where kind of just demonstrating the proof of concept. But so the way that it works is that listing sales is gasless, and everything is verified twice. So it's verified on the sell and it's verified on the buy. Beyond that, the on every sale, the native token, which will be the art token, will be bought back with 1% of the sale price and will be reflected to all of the holders. So the art token is a reflection token. So on every sell, these numbers aren't finalized yet, but so if somebody buys art, they'll get, they get 96% of it or 95% of it. And then, 4% is reflected. And then on every sell, kind of the same thing happens. So it incentivizes people to buy and hold. And the more you hold, the more you'll make on every NFT sale. If you sell, that's fine, because part of that sale will go to the community and their bags will get bigger. And so the numbers we're looking at is that if we can even capture like 10% of OpenSea's volume, like their peak volume, we'd be looking at something around $3 million a month that we would be sharing with the community. And no other project is really doing this. So LooksRare, they're kind of doing something like that, but it's not in the same fashion. So like they require you to stake the looks and then you get paid out in like the native chain token. So that's not super sustainable, because I haven't really looked at their supplies or anything, but it seems to me like they're kind of just like pumping out tons of looks tokens and then not putting any weight behind them. So the benefit of this style is that every single NFT buy will increase the price of art. And not only will it increase the price, it will increase every single holder's wallet.
So this way it will be truly inflationary. So it won't just be tokens that are being printed and just not.
No, yeah, it's a limited supply. It's a fixed supply. And so the only way that these tokens will ever go into circulation is if they're purchased. So and as the fully diluted market cap will always be from purchase price money. There won't be any outside influence. So you would think like, okay, everybody's just going to buy all of the tokens and then hold them forever, and then nobody will ever be able to buy it anymore. But there will always be sellers. Like there's no scenario in this planet where nobody sells, right? So the more people sell, it does two things. It gives new people a chance to enter, and it also increases other holders' token amounts. So it's not inflationary because there's no increase in supply. It's just that as buys come in, the price will go up, and then as sells go out, the demand will be much higher than the supply. And so eventually, in the beginning, like an NFT sale, let's say it buys like 10 art tokens. and then reflects that back. Within a couple of months, that will probably be 1, and then it'll be 0.1 and 0.001. So it's actually deflationary in a sense, as in the sense that people will want to hold. But back to the point of what this all is about is that sorry, I kind of went on a rant there,
no
but
problem. Sounds very interesting.
The point of it is that this gives extra utility to NFT collectors too. So not only will they earn from holding the token, but every time they buy, they'll get a little bit of that back. Anytime anybody else buys, they'll get a little bit of that back. And so I think one of the biggest problems in the NFT community is that number one is utility. Like, there's very, very little utility in the NFT space right now.
Yeah.
The second is that there's not enough profit sharing. So a lot of these projects are making, tens, hundreds of millions of billions of dollars, and they're not, they're just hoarding that wealth, and they're not rewarding their community. And even if they are, they're not rewarding their community enough. So our goal is to not only incentivize community engagement, but to also reward community engagement, and to reward, the people actually using the platform. So if I could wrap up that question in one statement, it would be like, the direction I want to see the NFT space go is more utility. And with all these metaverses popping up, we're going to have another bubble of, just random kind of projects and people promising metaverses here and there and all that. We'll see. We'll see which ones actually deliver and which ones don't. And it'll be some interesting times.
Yeah, that's definitely a big problem with the NFT space right now. The limited utility of most projects, and it's good to see that you guys are trying to make something different. And yeah, that's very cool. So I don't want to take any more time from you guys. This was an awesome conversation. Thank you for that. So where can you get a Polygon? So.
Yeah, for sure. Well, and thank you so much, Nuno. It's great to be talking with you, for sure. So thanks for having us. You can get a Polygoons at polygoons.finance. So it's POLYGOONZ .finance. You can follow us on Twitter at polygoons_DeFi. And we also have our Discord, which has a lot of really cool stuff happening. So like little quests that you can do with your Polygoons, also daily giveaways that anybody can enter to earn Goons tokens. You can enter those even if you do not own a Polygoons. You can join the Discord at polygoons.social.
Yeah, awesome. Why don't you guys just share your personal social media for people to follow you and follow your work? I'll leave them down in the description, obviously. But yeah,
for sure. Yeah, and so I'm at Zac Kenny on Twitter.
What about you, Chillyo?
It's the _DeFi.
Yeah, thank you for that. It was awesome to talk with you guys. Had a great time. Learned a lot, and yeah, hoping to do more of these interviews. Thank you for coming, and stay safe, guys.
Awesome. You too. Thanks, Nuno. Bye.
Bye. Have a nice day. Gostei. Gostei.